welcome back everyone. The next lecture is going to be held in English. Brief few words about our speaker, Patryk. Basically, he was one of the first people in his company to use rapid software testing and modern testing approach. And basically, he enjoys learning new things, sharing the knowledge with others as well. A little bit few words about his private stuff. When he's not improving the processes, he can be found in a local climbing gym when he is about to solve some of the boulder problems. So let me welcome Patryk Oleksyk.
Okay, it's working. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Patryk, and welcome to my presentation. Here is a little disclaimer regarding usage of assets, so just remember to support the original creators. Regarding me, like I said, it was Patryk. I'm working as a quality consultant, and right now also as a project leader for a software house and a consulting firm called Konsilient Polska in Szczecin. And regarding this talk, so if you are working in a software house, outsourcing, or leadership or quality is dear to you, I think this talk is for you. But if you are not in this particular case, don't go away, because I think you will find something valuable here also. So, what the hell is project handover itself? In simple terms, it's a project transfer between two parties, in describing the, let's say, deliverables and transferring knowledge. And this can vary from project to project. And in my talk, I will showcase 3 project cases where I have bigger or smaller part in the handover process, and I will talk about what initializes this process, what are the steps in it, what are the pitfalls, and also what we learned. And one moment. And also from this talk, one thing that you need to remember that it's not only about delivering the product that was under development, but there's more to it. So stuff like project factors, quality criteria, and also the relationship between your stakeholders and your team is something that you need to take care upon too. And regarding handover itself, I can differentiate 4 initial ways that, in my opinion, start the whole thing. One of them is just that agreement is fulfilled, so everyone delivered what was needed, and everyone goes their separate ways and are happy. But there are also more one-sided ones, like it could be the stakeholder decision to terminate the contract, or your organizational decision, or there can be something beyond anyone's power that starts the whole thing. And I will focus mainly on those 3 latter examples that I showcase, where the project handover were more in a hellish spectrum. That means that not everybody was happy how this process went, and I cannot find a better metaphor regarding it which I found in the video game that is all about hell and underworld called Hades. Water break. So, if you are looking for the underworld or hell that is depicted in Greek mythology, you found the right place. And in this game, because the story is important in some manner, we are playing as a prince of the underworld called Zagreus. And he is the son of Hades, not the place itself, but the god of the underworld. They have the same name, Greeks. And without major spoilers to the game, our protagonist has one goal: to escape his father's domain, so basically escape hell. Sounds simple, but to do that he needs to go through various levels and stages of the underworld and defeat the main bosses, which are the gatekeepers to the surface. And what are the places, you may ask? Let's start from the bottom, Tartarus. So if you're looking for something similar to the biblical hell, look no further, you are also in the right place. And the game lore welcomes us in some inviting manner. So, as I can quote, punishment is all that is left for the souls of these no more chance for rehabilitation, only suffering. Sounds lovely. And the project that brings back similar memories was about network surveillance application that my company was developing for one of the stakeholders, or the clients. And were gathering a lot of data reports from the various network routers and the devices connected to them, and we are displaying it for the particular users which use those devices. One of the fun things regarding this project was that we also were developing some fuzzy logic regarding the possible network issues and how to solve them. So there was a lot of things to learn, but the problem that started the whole handover was a little bit from the stakeholder side, because the main stakeholder, we had few of them in this project, had a little bit of irrational, let's say, requirements, because in metaphor speaking, he wanted to have a cake and eat the cake at the same moment. So he wanted to have an MVP product that can be displayed in some tech conferences, but at the same time, he wanted to have this product production ready, so every feature would be tested development in the neatly way, which cannot be delivered. But even with some discussions, negotiations, there was no middle ground to meet. And additionally, with this project, we had our main boss that was connected to the handover process. First of all, the crunch and over hours that the team needed done, which basically exhaust the whole team in the end. Also, not having a specific requirements meant there was a lot of bugs and the technical debt rose. The next stuff, with that, the team motivation was going down. And in the end, our user base, our stakeholders were not happy with the end product that they had. So my organization started to terminate the contract, so we need to start the whole process. And regarding how it went and what we learned, so first of all, is to have a scope. Because most of the time, especially from my experience, the stakeholders does not know what the handover process really meant to them, because they don't know how the steps. So every idea initially came from the development team regarding the handover process. And not having a plan of what needs to be delivered could be a large burden to bear for the development team. So that is why, especially the one that is already exhausted from the over hours. So that is why one of the goodies you will have after this presentation, if I didn't say that, this presentation will be accessible for you in some manner in like 1 or 2 hours. So you can find it in some social media. So one of the goodies will be a checklist that you can use with your team to plan your handover of the project. And this list, or part of it, is ambiguous. That meant that those items could mean a lot of things for different people. And this is by design, because what I want to have is a meeting with the team, find the common places what we need to deliver, and also find new ideas on other places that is only depending on our context in the given project. Okay, but having a scope is one thing. Second is to have some kind of roadmap. So to have a timeline and know the ownership, who will take care of given tasks. That will ease up your stakeholder to know what will happen during this whole process. And also your team will know what priority has the given task. Speaking about the tasks, ticketify them. So treat them like a normal development tickets with their own requirements, proper description. If it's more formal, then better, in my opinion. And this will also let your team to check the status of the handover tasks easily, especially in some daily meetings. And in the project itself, we had a case, so what to do with the features that are not developed fully during our handover process, because we have some of them left. So in my opinion, there's like 2 responsible ways to do that. So the first one is to just rush and implement the new things and push it to production. Or there could be other way that we can leave those changes in some branch let them stay here for the new team to take it over, and they can just chill there. But bear in mind that this decision is not your team to decide, but it should be a conscious decision of your stakeholders. Because in the end, they need to know what are the repercussions of their decision. So there will be some code freeze, or maybe some other task from the handover cannot be delivered. And the next lesson in this particular case was that one of the stakeholders wanted to have every diagram in our documentation to be described in the UML language. And to take it into consideration, especially in our project, like you can guess, our documentation was not designed to be like that. So our diagrams were like whatever. And this was a problem a little bit out of proportion, because this was requested like 1 or 2 weeks before the project end and termination. So we have a problem. And the biggest lesson that we can use even in other areas of expertise is to simply negotiate, but not in the way to compromise and find a middle ground regarding the tasks that needs to be handled, but to find the crucial information, why this is even happening. And as a tester's QA, I think this is one of our biggest strengths, because our responsibility is to dissolve the illusion what everyone is thinking and what is the real problem here right now. So to simplify this, because the stakeholder decision to do that for us was a little bit crazy right now. We don't have time, and someone needs to do it. But there's always a reason why someone needs something. But this something is not what the project needs right now. So what I've done, because I was labeled as UML expert, because no one else wanted to do that, I prepared some one-pager regarding questions exactly regarding this task, what, let's say, diagrams are needed, what version of UML we should use for our documentation, and so on and so on. And I had like a talk and discussion with the stakeholder. And after some time, I figured out the case was that he found some template on the internet that UML is the go-to way to have proper descriptions of documentation and diagrams, etc., etc. So that was his initial thing, that this is what he needed and wanted. But the main thing was that was not particularly the truth. So after some leading questions, we figured out that the main case, what this was needed, was to basically have some diagram of processes and the interaction that's happening in our system. And thanks to that crucial information, we can easily reduce the scope of this task to just one simple thing that can be delivered in no time. Okay, let's leave to another level called asphodel. Asphodel meadows, to be precise. So this was a flowery biome where unremarkable people were living after their living life, let's say. So that ones that didn't deserve the punishment in the Tartarus, or not deserve the glory in the paradise called Elysium. And the case is that this, in the game at least, that this place was overflown by the lava river. That's why it's so fiery. And fire here has its meaning, because the next project was a startup one. So that meant that everything was cracked up to the level. And initial let's say, requirements from the client was, I have idea. And the team needed to figure out what are the requirements for this idea. We need to experiment, design, also develop and test everything. So everything was on the team side to decide what and how needs to be done. And this was a little bit of fun experience, because we can learn a lot. Plus, ownership was also a big plus for our team. And what was good, unfortunately, needed to end. And the problem was the money, and especially the lack of it. So the budget ended. And this took us and everyone by surprise, because right now we don't have any other team to share our knowledge regarding handover, because there are none. Our documentation was not in the best place, like it is with most startups, because this will be done later. Our accesses were distributed to all people within the team, but right now it needs to be centralized. And we had a fun problem because we had some certification for the Windows drivers for our application. And the person who was signed, that the certification was signed to, left the company like a few months before. So this also needs to be somehow solved. And what we learned. So the access. We need to take control of our access management. And not only about the code, but also some encryption and the coding of it, and also repositories, but also the communication channels. And I mean that the handover process shouldn't be anyhow affecting the way how we communicating with our user base. So the current stakeholder needs to know what are the processes in our communication and where to get those. And on the other hand, any third-party tools and invoices and billing was on our team. So we also need to provide the stakeholder with ability to grant access to. And like I said, regarding the availability, the project was ending. So, and in the end of the project even, there were some tasks that we need to still finish. So my company found like a budget, let's say, let's say friendly way to implement this problem. So we only left few people in our team to successfully hand over additional stuff that we could not finish at the time. And that led other people to start the new projects and be happy with ourselves. And also handover in the end was successful. The next case study is taking place in Elysium. So the paradise in the Greek mythology where warriors, great heroes, kings were engaging in combat for enjoyment of masses. Think of the gladiator with Russell Crowe, are you not entertained? And this is the place. And the project was also a little bit combating because we were taking care of digitalization of one of the biggest manufacturers of particular building material in the world. I cannot disclose what kind of. And also any process that is depending on it in the stakeholder plans. And our team, so the development was not in our company side, but few people, that's why it's body leasing there written, were deployed to the client's team to work together regarding the development, consulting, and also onboarding new plans. So scaling up was also some kind of challenge that we need to solve. And everyone was happy. The project that took, I think, 3.5 years in the end. But the case was, like I said, we were working for one client, which was in the end proxy for the main stakeholder. And due to some legal reasons that I cannot disclose, the agreement between the client and stakeholder could not work together anymore. So that meant also we could not work together with the main stakeholder. So the handover process began. And in this particular project, even under our development, there was one problem that was the team turnover, because this was high as hell. So a lot of people were going out from the project and we were hiring new people. But that was a little bit of blessing in disguise, because thanks to that we were better with our onboarding process, which we could use later in our handover. Additionally, the entry-level threshold was high in this project, and that meant the domain knowledge, business, and technology that we used was hard to learn, and it could take even a few weeks before someone could start developing new features. And also the team responsibilities were a little bit fuzzy, which meant, for example, for the QA team, we were also responsible for the support on all the levels, which meant taking all tickets from the users, investigating, debugging them, or even fixing the problem in production. So that was fun. plus onboarding new plant users, because that was also our responsibility, or even improving the processes that were happening in the plants itself, because due to digitalization, this was also like a funny part of our work. And regarding handover itself, the new time will come, but there will be a little bit of delay of a couple of months. So this also meant that our current team needed to have some tasks to do during that time, or also have some tasks for the new team. And regarding the process and what we learned, so my CEO compares the overall handover process to leaving your baby or your child with someone else, which means that your team helped it grow, develop and thrive, and now you need to assure that the people responsible for it during your absence will take good care of it and are skilled enough to do that. And with that, the crucial thing regarding handover is to properly transfer the knowledge between one and another team. And basically this process is the same as onboarding, but in a larger scale. So we were experiencing that. And how we started it is by differentiating different areas that we were using in our project. And it will be anything from the infrastructure, architecture, to some technology we are using, or the tools, or even stuff related to the business itself and its subsystems that we're using our platform. Having that, we differentiated some metrics that we will use for checking those areas. We started simply with some average or mediana, but in the end, that didn't provide for us any particular knowledge, so it was not necessary. But from the other things, we use something like the maximal level of expertise, because we have a grading system that I will showcase in a moment, to know for given area, do we have any experts or on which level. Also, how many developers were not working on given area, or the number of experts, depending on the level, are in this area. And having that, we produce some scoring that everyone understands from 1 to 5, and 1 meant that someone was not working in this area at all, and 5 that they have like invest knowledge, they have like months of working in this area and know it truly. Having that, we prepare some surveys, so the whole team could score themselves up. We then calculated the given expertise, but this is not looking so really nice and don't give us the immediate information what we needed. So we color-coded, have some heat map, and thanks to that we can faster know in which areas we are lacking. For example, for the number of experts, we want at least have 2 or even more, so this is something that we need to take care of during our onboarding, or maybe learning the product, or maybe there's some areas that we need more workshops for the whole team to participate. So this at least gives us some knowledge. And with the same metric, the same matrix, we could use for the other team. And this was the first step, to prepare this no-cam matrix for the new team. So they knew, at least they know at the beginning what are the levels. And after that, we conducted some knowledge transfer sessions, so some workshops where we describe everything regarding the particular areas in the time. Then, having next step was to have some tickets for the new people to be more familiar with the code. So we created some tickets, give them some tickets regarding some easy bug fixes, some improvements that were just laying on our backlog. And with that, also the next step was giving them more and more ownership of the development processes that we had in the team. And in the end, we iterate. So after that, each week or 2 weeks, we have some meeting, and we provide some coaching on the time, and also ask how they're feeling regarding these processes, and give them more tasks to do and in like a month or two, they can finally work alone and maintain the whole product. Additionally, I'm fast today. Okay. Additionally, when you have a good relationship with your client, the case is that it's also important to know how to say goodbye with the client. And this is like two-sided relationship. So from one side, this handover process is the best way to basically ask for the letter of the recommendation for your company or your organization. So this is like a cherry on top for the team to know what they did well and to just do a little bit brag about it or provide a spotlight for our team. But the second side is if your teammates from your organization are in some leadership role or they are seniors, maybe think about the people from the client's team. Give them feedback to their managers or I don't know, HR, or maybe then give them some recommendation in some social media, LinkedIn, just to give them some support. And for some, it could mean a lot. And, okay, the title is not working. And our last stop is the Temple of the Sticks. So the place which divides the living world and the underworld. And here I do not have any particular project case that I can talk about, but there is still one last boss to beat. And this one is connected to your organization. Because with every handover, there's always the case that, for example, your teammates would not like to or would not be keen to do this handover task because they spend a lot of time in the project, they feel deeply about it, and now they need to leave it. So the motivation and morale will be all-time low. And additionally, for some people, we spend also some time in the project, starting the new one will be a hard nut to crack. And this also need to, the organization to provide some support for those kind of people. Because one thing that I think every organization want to have is to lose talent because the project was ended, at least in my opinion. That is why the last lesson that I want to leave with you and your organizations is the simple one. Just take care of others. And if you are a leader of the project or the manager that knows that the project will end soon and the handover will start, this is a wake-up call for your organization to start looking for the new projects for your teammates. Additionally, in this part, try to help update your teammates' CV. So it is important to showcase what they learned, how they grown, and every project brings opportunity for that. From other perspective, if that new project will not start ad hoc, if for some reason that happens, let your people from the company take care over the learning program. I think everyone has the yearly one at least, or should have. So this is a good way to for them to spend their time, but don't leave them alone with that, and also try to coach them within it. And also, if the project ends, it is good to have some kind of lessons learned for your company, because not everyone knows what we were doing, and the problems, challenges that you had in your project could be simply described in some postmortem meeting that you can highlight the topics that were happening in your project. With that, these are the topics that I were talking about. Additionally, later in the next slide, you will have all of the links, the resources, like the checklist that I prepared like 30 slides ago, and the know-how transfer instruction, and already prepared some table in a spreadsheet which you can access. And yeah, this is it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.